believe it. Johnny Bench is trying it out. The Cincinnati Reds win the World Series in 4 straight. It was a sweep.
In the dirt, it's a wild pitch. Here comes Walker. The Reds win the pennant.
Larkins won the game.
That ball is fair. Cincinnati's ahead. 2 games to none.
Welcome Joe Landa to Cincinnati. Adam Dunn has done it again. Benzinger backing and calling. And the 1990 World Championship belongs to the Cincinnati Reds.
Marty, yes. This is Adam from Milwaukee. Hey, Adam, how you doing? I'm good. How are you? Good. Do you think Scott Chatterbox is a good player?
Dunn up there with the bases loaded, the outfield deep and around toward right, and the 1-0 on the way to the plate. Swung on, long drive, right field, and this one belongs to the Reds.
And a high drive, hit back into deep right field. Junior has just knocked the door down to the 500 club.
Benson's first home run is a walk-off winner. That ball had a family.
And De La Cruz is, oh my goodness, look at this kid run. My, oh my, that is a triple.
Matt McClain's first big league bomb.
Spencer Steer's first big league hit is a home run to straightaway center field. Joey Votto's done it again.
The pitch. Botto swings high in the air. Right field. Yes! He pointed to the dugout to say, I told you. That is Joey Votto's 315th career go-ahead ribby. Only Johnny Bench had more as a Red.
And I can't tell you how much it means to play in front of everyone here in Cincinnati as a Red. What a gift. What a tremendous gift. So thank you. Thank you.
I think I can speak for all of Reds country. Joey Votto, thank you.
High drive. Left center field. Racing back to the wall. Bourgeois. The Reds are National League Central Division champions. In the air, left center field. Did he? He did! He did! Reds win! Win! Line into right field. Genius, the first Red ever with 4 home runs in a game. Can you believe it? In the air, down the right field line. Doesn't have a chance. The Reds have won on a 3-run home run on opening day by Ramon Hernandez. A strike away and out away is Homer Bailey. Ground ball to third. Frazier gloves. Throw to first, and Homer Bailey, for the second time in his major league career, has tossed a no-hitter. Oh, gosh. Oh, are you kidding me? Holy moly, the second player in major league history to hit 7 home runs in the first 10 games. In the air, and the Reds win it. What a dream beginning to a career of Jay Bruce.
All right, Nick, welcome into a Sunday night edition of Chatterbox Reds, and we can bury it. It is over. It is finished, Nick. No longer do we have to discuss a baseball team and a franchise that is incapable of winning a series after dropping the first one. And maybe, just maybe, Nick, they wanted to do it in grand style. You know, it's not one of those things where you just kind of half-heartedly do something. They went all in and did it against the American League's best baseball team, at least some would say. Dropped the first game of the series, rattle off 2 more. Today felt like a miracle. I got to tell you, I know many people talk about Easter, the Sunday, talk about, miracles and things of that nature on that Sunday. Today felt very much to me like a miracle. I'm not going to say that this is a team that's incapable of winning a series against the Tigers. Not really talking about that. I'm more or less talking about the idea that when the Tigers take the lead late in the game, boy, oh boy, do you think to yourself, well, I've seen this one. That'll be it. And nope. I don't want to call them the Rally Reds because they're anything but that. But if they could do this for maybe a couple more weeks, maybe we can start to rally the nickname the Rally Reds once again. Great Sunday. Happy Father's Day, by the way, Nick.
Happy Father's Day to you as well, my friend. You hadn't seen it because the Reds were 0-29 when trailing after 7 innings. So they're now 1-29, baby. Now, in fairness, like I think those stats, like people look at those and they go, "Oh my God, that's so terrible." I think like the average team is like 4-25, so it's not. It's a little less jarring if you look at it like that, but nonetheless, finally able to get one of these games that you really had no business winning. Look, you had Wade Miley on the mound today. The Tigers executed their opener situation perfectly, got to their bullpen. They got their guys set up late in the game with the lead. You had no business winning, and finally we win one of these games with no logical reason you should have won this game.
No, it's one of those things where you start to try to, I don't want to say count your breaks during the season and your bad breaks during the season. Today, ultimate break. Not only that, I'm sure I don't want to sit here and keep rattling off things that we could probably discuss, but I don't really think we're going to get deep into the weeds on Wade Miley ever on this show. And if we do, God help us all, and I might leave the show. And some are probably cheering for Wade Miley as we speak for me to leave it. Point saying is that he gave up some home runs. Like you give up 2 home runs in 5 innings, not great. But they were solos, and that kind of saved him, if you want to call it that. He did his job. I got to tell you, I've been hard on Wade Miley. I think I'm still going to be. I'm just not going to buy into the idea that this guy is a serviceable option, but he did his job. And as I've said before, you do your job. I'm okay with watching it a little bit more. But the leash is short with Wade Miley. Before we jump into the whole rundown, we have some supers in just a second, but anything that you want to get to before we do that?
No, let's jump into it.
All right, we got some supers. Jacob Doyle says, the Giants went out and got Devers. Bringing back Candy and his 520 OPS in Louisville won't cut it. We need more help. Maybe. I mean, like, that's the number one thing that a lot of fans want. As soon as there's some reasonable winning streak or there's a little bit of glimpse of hope. I just don't know how many teams are out there right now that are, like, actively willing to give you a great piece to help you win. Most teams, the vast majority of teams right now, still think that there's a reasonable chance that they might make the postseason. That's the difficult thing with trading, on June 15th.
Can I come in fired a little bit here on this Sunday night?
Go for it. I mean, everybody wants a fiery Nick Kirby.
I think that trade is going to end up being a good thing for the Boston Red Sox. Everyone's just crucifying the Red Sox for trading away. Like, do people not realize that they're also trading away $250 million? So, like, you're not going to get a big return when you're trading away a guy earning $250 million. He's a DH. He's not going to earn much more on the free market than that. If even that much. Like, I these trades, like, people just don't understand how much money a player's making, and if you're making a lot of money, you don't get anything back. Why would you trade valuable assets for a player that you wouldn't pay that much in free agency for?
I understand that. Makes perfect sense. The only argument back to that, Nick, would be that if money's not a factor and it doesn't mean anything to you in the way in which you go about your business, if acquiring someone for $250 million isn't going to stop you from going out and spending another $50 million later that you might have or might not have, then the argument would be from that side of the camp, should be at least, I'm not defending these people, it would be, hey, you can't just get guys like this that can hit this well, even if it is a DH. Maybe it's overvalued, but we'll take the production over what a fair trade is. But for the vast majority of the teams, Nick, you're right. Like, it's you don't have an endless budget.
And the Giants are legitimately maybe the perfect example of a team that almost had to, not say had to get Devers, right, but they've missed on a lot of big free agents. They tried to get Aaron Judge. They tried to get big free agent, and they just can't get them. Whereas the Red Sox are in a little bit, I think, easier of a boat to attract free agents than the Giants are. Yeah. I mean, who wouldn't want to go play for the Boston Red Sox, if you had your pick and they can pay you as much as anyone else? So I think the Red Sox could reallocate that money.
Yeah, and who gives a real damn about the Red Sox and the Giants? Because I don't really give a damn about them, okay? I got to tell you.
Everyone's talking about it right now.
No, I'm not talking about you. I'm not talking about you. I'm not talking about you. I'm just saying in regards to the grand scheme of things in this show and our fans, and I could give a piss. I really could care less, all right? When I go to bed tonight, let me tell you, Rafael Devers trade will not be one of the thoughts when I go to bed, all right? Michael Roth. Oh, baby. Are we back? ATOBTTR. If you don't know what that means, and this one belongs to the Reds, Roth with a 50 bomb. No Fly Zone chimes in, says, I would have bet money that Hinch would intentionally walk Elly in the ninth and have Tyler Stevenson hit against a right-handed pitcher. I'm glad he didn't. ATOBTTR. You want to save that? You want to chime in really quickly on that?
I didn't have that in. I'm going to try to pull up the game situation. And I was doing a little, Father's Day multitasking, as I'm sure a lot of people were.
I got to tell you, I have as well.
Let's pull up the situation here. Let's run through it. Since he super chatted, I want to try to answer it.
That's fair.
All right. So, yeah, there's 2 outs in the inning. McLean was on first base though, so you'd be putting a runner into scoring position, right?
What's the score?
The scores, the Tigers were already down 2 runs. Yeah, I don't.
Well, if there's a runner on first base, to put a guy on base, you have to think that he's unbelievably good at baseball.
Even then, you're not. I'm not sure if Hinch was the manager of the Astros. I remember a stat of the Astros where they had not intentionally walked a batter for an entire season, and Hinch might have been the manager. So I think he might be one of the guys that his philosophy is I almost will never, ever intentional walk, because free base runners typically are bad, even if you are, putting guys into certain spots.
Houston Berger says, opinion on Nick Kral's comments about trying to extend Elly and failing, and comments about making trades at the break. Sounds like we're going to avoid peaks and valleys and play mediocre 500 ball. Houston, we'll talk about that here in just a bit, I promise you. Michael Roth says, happy Father's Day to Trace and Nick, and happy Father's Day to the Reds, because every other team Roth's feeling them. Roth's feeling the Reds right now, because every other team was their daddy when they lost the first game of the series. Today, Elly was the Tigers' dad. 92-year-old Wade on the mound. Fantastic. Roth then chimes in and says, no, Nicholas P. Kirby. I'll have you know that Rafael Devers said he was a third baseman, not a DH. Those are his words, not mine. He did say that.
If he plays third base over Matt Chapman, that would be pretty wild.
Isn't it kind of wild, though, that he went to 2 teams? Chapman is the third baseman on one, and then you have Bregman on the other. So to be fair, if he came to the Reds, we could have a little bit of an argument. There could be at least a conversation.
You could take over for CES, brother.
Yeah, it's like, Espinal, Devers. I don't know, I'm not sure. Espinal, great game today, though. No shade. Not trying to throw shade his way. Philip said, as of today, we are the only temp in MLB not to be swept. I think he meant team, but I do read these like Ron Burgundy. So that's just what it got.
Remember that when you're super chatting.
Yeah, I don't do that, because I will accidentally mess up on the show one time. And I'm hoping that YouTube has some kind of what's the word to use here? Filtration system that they have. And final one before we move on, Christian Wolf says, is a wild card spot a long shot? Well, we'll discuss that in the show. I don't think it's a long shot. You're only 3 games back on June 15th. It's not a long shot. It's
the shot.
Yeah, it's what we're all fighting for. It's not. What do you consider a long shot? A long shot is in the last horse to enter the Kentucky Derby, the longest odds. No, it's not that long, but I wouldn't say it's 50-50 either. So, we'll see. I'm sure the sportsbook's got a perfect number on it as we speak. But as always, like the stream if you haven't already. Very much appreciate you guys tuning in. Father's Day, Nick. I must admit, before we start, I had some things I did. Played in a golf tournament. Caught. I don't say most of the Reds game, but I wasn't locked into every pitch, so I'm just gonna get ahead of this and say if there's some sequence of plays that happen in this game that I'm not aware of that I probably should be, well, I was out doing things on Father's Day. But some big-time plays that we'll discuss here in just a bit. But before we do all those things, we have a box score recap that's presented by Nick Kirby, as always.
All right, Reds taking on the Tigers, a rubber game of a 3-game set in Detroit. The Tigers went with a left-handed opener, and he retired the Reds in order in the first. Wade Miley pitched around base runners in the first 2 innings, but gave up a leadoff home run to Jahmai Jones in the bottom of the third, 1-0 Detroit. Elly De La Cruz led off the top of the fourth with an infield single and then reached second base on an error. Tyler Stevenson singled him home to tie the game at 1. A wild pitch and fielder's choice moved Stevenson over to third, and Connor Joe hit a sac fly to put the Reds up 2-1. Lead did not last long, though, as Wade Miley gave up a solo home run to Winsell Perez to tie the game at 2 in the bottom of the fourth. Miley did, however, retire the final 5 batters that he faced to get the Reds through 5 quality innings. Miley's final line, 5 innings, 4 hits, 2 runs, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts. Scott Barlow threw a scoreless 6th, but Graham Ashcraft gave up 2 runs in the 7th, and 3 runs in the 7th, and the Tigers retook a 4-2 lead. In the top of the 8th, TJ Friedel reached on an error. Matt McLean smoked a single the other way at 102 off the bat, and then Elly De La Cruz singled home a run to make it 4-3. Later in the inning, Will Benson hit a pinch hit sac fly with the bases loaded to tie the game at 4. Then the next batter, Gavin Lux, snuck in a single to put the Reds up 5-4, and then a wild pitch made it 6-4. Emilio Pagan, pitching in the 8th inning, threw a scoreless 8th. Then in the top of the 9th, Matt McLean smoked another single at 102 off the bat with 2 outs, and Elly De La Cruz homered for a 4th straight game to put the Reds up 4-2. Tony Santillan threw a scoreless 9th. Reds win 8-4. Reds have won 7 of 9. They've won 3 straight series. They're now 37-35. Reds get their first win of the season after trailing after 7 innings. They are now 1-29. And yes, the streak is over. For the first time since June 2023, the Reds win a series in which they lost game 1, ending a streak of 39 consecutive series losses after losing the opener.
All right, we got a deep drive today, and of course it came off the bat of Elly De La Cruz. It was his 16th on the year, 103.9 off the bat, 372 feet, and it is a launch angle of 22 degrees. That would give the Reds an 8-4 lead. Their win probability would jump up to 98%, and as we all know, it would wind up being 100%. DSC, they are a leader in renewable commodities for biofuel production, specializing in used cooking oil collection, aggregation, and sales. Visit www.deepsouthcommodities.com for more information. And thank you to John and his team. And, you know, a lot of crucial things that happen in a baseball game throughout the course of 9 innings that you can't highlight every little thing that happens. I think the biggest, obviously, kind of hit, and I don't want to say the biggest hit, but it was a massive hit, was Gavin Lux. I mean, you find a way to finally get over the proverbial hump. It felt like this team all year long would get close to making a splash or get close to being able to find a way to make a big play when it mattered the most, and they just couldn't get that big hit. Lux finds a way to extend the inning, and the next thing you know, snowball, you take an 8-4 lead. You're obviously able to hold on to that. And I just felt like the crazy thing about the 8 runs, Nick, is it felt like they kind of in a way deserved to score 8 runs, but maybe not in the way that they scored them. Like, they had opportunities early in the game. There was base runners. You ground into some double plays. You find a way to take yourself out of what could have been really good scoring innings or scoring opportunities. And then later in the game, the home run, there it comes back again, right? You take a 1-run lead. The Tigers kind of give you a little bit of a break. And then Elly kind of, I don't want to say made it to where it was unfathomable that they couldn't find a way to lose that. But it certainly gave them cushion where you felt like heading into the 9th, it was a much easier job to kind of close the door. Your overall thoughts offensively, perhaps, before we jump into the individual performances?
Yeah, I don't know if probably a lot of people know how good of a reliever Will Vest is, who the Reds did the majority of the damage against in the 8th. Not a big wins loss record guy for pitchers, but he was 5-0. He's now 5-1. Entered with a 1.83 ERA. This is a guy that last 3 years has had a sub-3 ERA, so a very good pitcher. Reds had some really good at-bats. They fouled off a lot of pitches, a lot of deep counts against him. And then, he made a mistake. He threw a wild pitch that allowed that additional run to score. But that was a really good inning of baseball. Just all around. I mean, Will Benson off the bench, hit a ball perfect. It was a sac fly, which was huge to tie the game, keep it moving. But I mean, the thing that I don't get super excited about lazy sac flies. Like, okay, yeah, I guess he got the job done. But when a guy hits a ball hard to the outfield, that gives you a chance to be a gapper, to blow an inning open, but also still gets the job done. That's what I think you really are looking for in those spots. So just all around, that was a really, really good inning against the Reds and their first win all year after trailing after 7 innings.
No doubt. And I was going to say to you, based off the wins-loss record thing, it's just funny and poetic that Graham Ashcraft, I believe, gets the win today. It's just like, can you imagine living in a world like, obviously in yesteryear where you just literally judge pitchers off the fact of whether or not they were the winning pitcher or the losing pitcher? Like, I mean, oh man, kind of a wild thing to think through. But obviously that was probably the invention, the beginning of the invention of advanced analytics and stats, because somebody was like, we can't keep doing this. We're smarter than this, guys. Elly, 4th straight game. That's where we're at right now. And it feels like, at least we're hopeful, that we can start to get out what I would consider our stars to be the leaders and the guys that we jump on the backs of. Elly clearly has always been that guy. I know he's a lightning rod in this town. I understand that there's probably some expectations of him to play at a higher standard at times. But the truth of the matter is that, if you kind of watch this team on a day in, day out basis, I think it's pretty evident that Elly's one of your best players. And I completely understand people that might just casually watch the Reds, and you watch a game here, you watch a game there, and he makes a couple errors in a game, and it looks like he's nonchalantly doing something, and it puts off a bad vibe, perhaps, of the casual fan. I kind of understand how that can happen, is what I'm getting at. Also, there's probably a certain percentage of people, Nick, that don't love the strikeout rate or how many times he comes to the plate and strikes out, so then there's some distaste there. But I just want everybody to know, when we sit here and discuss Elly and we talk about clutch this and clutch that, or, in late in games, he just never seems to come up with a big hit. Well, you're selectively choosing to think a certain way at times. There are obviously analytics and stats that say that Elly has struggled with the clutch situations. But my point in saying, Nick, is that he has had a couple major, massive hits. And I don't want people to forget, he hit a home run, by the way. I think it was in the 9th inning, if I remember right.
White Sox. Yeah,
to give us a chance, and then we blow it. So it's not really his fault. But this was one of those winning moments. Elly got his big-time hit late, and it's just nice to see.
Yeah, Elly now on pace for 36 home runs. He has 2 more home runs than any shortstop in the National League. Has the best OPS of any shortstop in the National League. He's at 850. Lindor is at 828. I just want to make sure everyone knows some of the names.
The sarcasm right now.
Of the shortstops in the National League. Francisco Lindor, I think he's making a little bit of money. Dansby Swanson, Mookie Betts, Willie Adames, Trey Turner, Xander Bogaerts. I mean, these are all guys that are making nearly $300 million, and Elly's been better than any of them. And Elly wasn't even the best version of himself for the first 7 weeks of the season. Also leads the National League shortstops in runs batted in. If you're into that stat, leads in stolen bases. I don't know, man. If you can't appreciate what Elly De La Cruz is doing right now, I don't understand why you watch this sport. I really don't.
I mean, you're going hard in the paint on a Sunday night. I'm not going to go down the path of the war path of telling people that you don't know why they watch baseball. But I will tell you, I will tell you that he, for whatever reason, is a lightning rod. And I think a lot of it just comes down to the way that he plays, the swag that he has. I hate that that's part of why people have this perception that they have. And I also think some of it's the fact that people of a certain demographic is what I would use. There might be some age thing here. I'm not trying to be discriminatory against certain, generations. But there's some generations that don't like guys that strike out and that might make an error from time to time. And they're going to be like, this guy ain't no superstar. Look how many times he strikes out. He's on pace to strike out more times than Tony Gwynn did in his entire career. I mean, it's like, yeah, I guess they're just completely different players. But
he's going to have more extra base hits than Tony Gwynn had in his entire career by his fifth season in the league.
Yeah. So, yeah, you pick and choose your battles, right? So, I mean, listen, Elly's playing well. Let's move on to some other guys. McLean was in the 2-hole today. I got to be honest. I mean, the logic sometimes of this, Tito clearly is a feel guy, and I'm just at this point, Nick, I know that you're not going to probably always feel this way because of just the nature and the business and the way you go about your fandom. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to blindly put some faith and jump on the ship. I'm going to get on this ship, even though I'm not sure we're always maybe putting the sails up in the right direction. I'm going to get on this thing, and I'm going to let it ride for at least a little bit. I don't know how long a little bit is. It might be 5 days. It might be 30 days. But I think I am. I think I've gotten myself to where I'm just going to get on the ship. If Espinal's in the 2-hole tomorrow, I'll ride it. I'm riding or dying with Tito for just a little bit. Tomorrow. Well, whatever. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I said not tomorrow, and then I said Monday, which is obviously tomorrow. Tuesday, I should say.
I'm trying to get there with you. I really am. I'll say I think he's doing a great job managing the bullpen. You say that every time before you get ready to say something you don't like about him. You ever notice that about Nick? Nick is one of those guys that's like the guys that are like, you're really good at doing this, and then there's and then there's like 20 more things they go to continue to tell you that you need to fix. But you're going to give him a compliment before you insult him. No, it's also interesting. I was kind of surprised that Pagan pitched the 8th. Pagan had been out a little while, too. I don't know if I actually saw an official report on if he was, battling something or whatnot. But I thought that was interesting. And it didn't end up mattering as much because Elly put 2 more runs on the board. But Pagan was facing the lesser hitters. In the 8th inning, Santillan was pitching facing the top of the order in the 9th. Also an indictment on Taylor Rogers that they didn't use him with 3 out of 4 lefties due up in the 9th. That's a pretty big indictment on where the organization feels about Rogers, not to get sidetracked. But I do feel like Santillan is, I think, clearly a better arm right now than Pagan. I don't like throwing Santillan, as I've said many times, directly into the closer because I want him to still pitch to the best hitters. But today it actually worked out that way, so I'll be interested to see that going forward. But overall, I really don't have any issues with his bullpen. I think he's done a really good job with his bullpen. It's hard for me to get on board with this opener situation that I just feel like the Reds continue to get exposed on, and I just don't understand why a guy like Tyler Stevenson that has great career numbers against lefties, has great numbers this year against lefties, why you're not forcing the opposing manager to have to face him. Because that's the second game in a row, or the second game in this series, where they took out their pitcher right before they faced Tyler Stevenson. And I don't really care about where you put guys in the lineup. I've said that many times. I don't really care that much about that. I just want to put guys in positions to succeed. And I just have a hard time understanding why we're not doing that.
I understand. I guess what I'm getting at is that I think that you're just beating a dead horse at some point with it because it's not changing. And I get that we're crying over the idea that we'd like for them to put some of these players in their best position to succeed as humanly possible. But there's this old, I don't want to say it's like old school way of thinking, but in a way it's very much like I want the psychological effect of certain players to be in certain spots to make them feel like they're more important or they are important, whatever way you want to shape this thing. That is what Tito brings, I guess. And whether or not you can get yourself to a point where you believe that psychological effect outweighs the analytical portion of what we're talking about or what you bring up, I'm not saying that you can do that, but that's what we're ultimately after right now. Is does Tito's psychological effect / vibe / belief in the players, does that add up to be more valuable than the extra 100 OPS that you're going to get out of a guy when he hits in the 2-hole versus the 5-hole with an opener? I don't know. I mean, that's a reasonable debate to be had another time, but that's what we're debating is what I'm getting at, is that Tito clearly has this psychological reason that he's doing these things. I'm just going to get on the ship and find out if it works.
Yeah, my last thought on this, I don't really even have an issue with it as much. I may completely disagree with it. I wouldn't have an issue as much even if you're not, like if you say, I'm batting TJ Friedl first, right or left, it doesn't matter. And I'm like, I'd rather bat someone else lead off against a lefty, but I'm fine with getting guys in the rhythm. But it's a different game right now, and the Reds are like getting treated differently. Like in today's game, there wasn't supposed to be an opener.
Right.
The Sawyer Brown, whatever his name is, he was the scheduled starter all weekend, and they changed to an opener because they know the Reds aren't changing it. So I do feel like it's a little bit different of a situation right now than just the whole, traditional, okay, I have to have my lineup this way, which again, I can kind of understand the value in that, but I don't know. This is something that over the course of the year we'll continue to see, but it feels like the Reds haven't benefited at all on that side. They just happened to win the game late.
Understood. And I guess I sit here, and it's weird because I can sit in the middle and mediate if we need to mediate two people that feel polar opposites about the subject. I could say, hey, don't you think that these people have kind of a point? And then I can say over here, hey, don't you think that there's some credibility on this side of what they've done in the past? And trust me, there would be no perfect answer because I don't think it's a very, very black and white subject when it comes to Tito and the decisions that he makes. So, moving on. Anybody else that you want to jump onto? Benson's at bat. I think that people think we're Benson stands over and over again. I agree with you, Nick. I felt like he really put a good swing on it, and it happened to be a sacrifice fly. There wasn't some kind of, really, bad swing that turned into a flare into left field that was a fortunate hit or something along those lines. Another kind of pivotal moment in the game. So shout out to Will Benson. Espinal finds a way to get on base. It'll be interesting to see what happens, man. We got some guys that are going to be healthy, I guess, or they're going to come back here soon. It's always, Nick, doesn't it always feel like when you need to get some guys back, they never come back? And then when you're finally starting to figure it out and you're like, well, I think I like who we got in there now. Let's keep it rolling. Then people are ready to come back. I remember when we harkened back when Joey Votto, I think, came off the DL and or the IL, and there was a debate on whether or not, Joey Votto was going to mess up the clubhouse vibe. I remember that goofy argument. But it does seem like when Candy comes back, I don't know if Hayes is ever going to come back. I don't know if that's on the back half of the rundown or not, but what do you do? I don't know. Anybody else that you're impressed with and that you would like to make sure they continue to find ways to play?
No, I thought Matt McClain had a really good series. I mean, he had a home run earlier in the series, and then obviously two very hard hit singles today. Again, we've seen this from McClain at times, so I don't want to get too excited. We've seen, okay, this is finally the time he's really putting it together, but I hope it is. Overall, though, I said this the other day when we weren't on, if this is Matt McClain's floor, A guy that, what does he have? 8 home runs in 62 games and playing good defense. I mean, that's a pretty good floor. Because I think even the person that's the most down on McClain, I don't think you can possibly believe that he's going to have this low of a batting average, this low of an on-base percentage again. So I'm excited about what McClain did. I really hope he's able to take off because, man, anything additional you get hit from him other than power and defense that he's giving you now, anything additional, man, that does really help this team kind of reach a next level, as cliche as that sounds.
No doubt. There's no doubt, and there's no doubt that the struggle that this baseball team had at the beginning of the year, if I can be not negative, I think it's just being just realist, was very much tied to McClain's lack of absence when it came to production at the plate, coupled with Steer and CES getting hurt. You ran into a buzzsaw where you just lost all of your not just power. I wouldn't call it power, but you lost a lot of your offensive production. And you were searching. We were searching long and hard to try to find it, and thankfully Hayes came back and he provided some. But I think the vast majority of where you can point to as to what the difference is from what you've watched in 2023 to 2025 is Matt McClain, mostly. And I'm not trying to put it on one player, but when you have a legitimate all-star type player in Matt McClain, which is what he was, and then you get a below average player, that's a significant difference and a big reason why I think this baseball team struggled. So the fact that he can maybe get hot again, get himself back to where he's got respectable numbers, whatever that means, maybe league average or slightly above league average would be nice to see. And the same goes with Spencer Steer too. Like we need him to continue to be an average to above average hitter. Whether or not we get that, I don't know. But it's at least at this point, Nick, it feels like we're trending in the right direction. I don't want to say we're back there, but it feels like we're trending in the right direction.
Yeah. And one last point, and we haven't mentioned it yet. Funny how some of these close games go your way. That inning in the 8th, and Trace, I don't know if you were dialed into this, but the Reds had two runners on base, or the bases were loaded. Tyler Stevenson up, he strikes out, and then CES hits a ground ball to the third baseman, McKinstry. He bobbles it just for a split second, doesn't get the runner out at second. Yeah. Good hustle by CES. They actually called him out and got overturned, which was the correct call. But I mean, he doesn't bobble. maybe
a completely different conversation. And Elly, I think Elly was the reason the play, the reason there wasn't a double play. And I'm not trying to keep going back and saying, look what Elly does, but like it's just the small stuff that you don't give Elly credit for sometimes because he does something that looks routine that's not routine. He makes it look like he's just running, and it's like, well, he's so damn fast that it makes a whole different impact on the play than if any other shortstop in baseball did that, it would be different. And you can't like today, you can't directly tie the fact they didn't turn the double play statistically or in a box score to Elly. But he very much did that. And I think more times than not, that's kind of what I always go back to with Elly. And I always say, listen, like, it's really hard just to judge this guy straight off of numbers because he affects the game sometimes in different ways that are so much more, I guess, impactful that you can't justify with a specific box score than Elly does. So, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, I was a big play in the game. And Elly, to be clear, was going to be out if the guy makes the play. He did need to bobble the ball, to be clear. So, yeah, I don't know. We get some breaks. We got some breaks. I mean, the Tigers gave us a break. Like this game was awesome. This game was awesome because it was the first time all year where you just should have never won. You should have never won, and you won. And you know what? We've scratched those 1-0 losses that I was just absolutely bent over sideways about earlier in the year, we're slowly kind of scratching those off. I mean, we are. Got to be honest.
Yeah.
We've got 2 of them out of the way. We've won 1-0 the other way. And today I'd say, I know we won 8-4, and everyone's like, well, that is, I'll be honest. I trade it. I'll take it. 1-0, this win. Seems to be the same.
Yep, this was a fun one.
So, all right. As always, you can text and or call 988 anonymous hotline, and mantherapy.org is also available day or night, 24/7. It's okay to not be okay. Please pass that along to not just yourself, but to loved ones as well, if you're ever in a time where you feel like somebody may need it. All right, Nick. I don't know if there's any supers that I have here that I got to get across before we jump forward. I don't think so. Great. Keep it moving. All right. Wade Miley takes the mound. I got to be frank, Nick. I decided today on Father's Day that I was going to put out a post when I actually typed it up. I typed it up on X, and it was not nice. It was not nice. I got to tell you. It was not nice. I erased it. I typed it out. It was very much a jab at Wade Miley, and I said, you know what? Let's change our attitude about this. So I said, let's hope Wade Miley pitches like it's 2012. Now, he didn't pitch like it was 2012, but he did get us in a spot where we could extend the game with arms that we trust in the bullpen, and the game wasn't out of reach. I don't know how much more I can say about it. I don't want to sit here and keep crying about Wade Miley and Wade Miley. I don't want to be that guy. But it seems like a ticking time bomb. But you know what? I guess it didn't blow up yet, so we'll keep letting it tick.
I'm trying to think of it this way. I mean, I'm taking your Tito approach to this. All right.
Okay.
Let's say Burns. Let's pretend for a second Burns doesn't exist.
Okay.
Are you
Sure.
Are you instantly less upset that Wade Miley's in the rotation? Because I'm like, I don't know if I'm that upset anymore. You know, like maybe you could say just go with Suter or, you know, give Petty another shot. But if Burns doesn't, if you're saying we are definitely not calling up Burns for whatever reason, I don't know. Wade Miley would probably be looked at quite a bit different right now if he didn't on May 25th not make it out of the first inning in AAA. Because if that was the case, he would have pitched 5 innings of no runs on May 20th in AAA, then 5 innings of 2 runs on May 30th, and then, you know, he had that bullpen game that I think he deserves a pass for that. And the last 2 starts have actually been pretty, like, okay.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say.
No. You'll never – no. 2 home runs is not a good start. It's not a great start. You got fortunate that, I mean, two home runs, and he also walked a couple guys and gave up 4 hits. Just was very fortunate when the home runs came. So not a great start, but it's also I think we almost have to judge Wade Miley versus a AAA replacement level pitcher at this point.
All right, you're saying he's a grimy, gutted out type veteran who can make the pitches when it matters the most, and he can find a way to kind of.
No, well, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that.
He can wiggle around trouble when you need him to. You know, there's going to be times. I mean, I know he gave up like 7 balls that were hit 190 miles an hour during the game, but that's just because he didn't need to do it. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of when Shaquille O'Neal couldn't make free throws at all, and they were like, "Hey, Shaquille, you think the 30% make is a problem?" He goes, "I make them when they matter." It's like, okay, yeah, that works. I guess he made a couple free throws late, so Shaquille O'Neal, good free throw shooter. I don't know. I guess I think every single reasonable, level-headed Reds fan understands the situation we currently are in with Wade Miley. He's not a very good big league arm. Would I like to have think that we probably would have a better replacement? Yes. Do we have a better replacement right now? We do, but I also think that there are some asterisks, maybe multiple asterisks that go with that replacement, which is obviously Burns. I think that there's reasonable discussion about why you wouldn't bring him up. I don't believe in that, to be clear, but I get it, I guess is what I'm getting at. It's like, I agree to disagree. I'm not going to go and just pull out a pitchfork and say, you're wrong, you're so stupid, why wouldn't you? I'm not doing that because I don't think I'm that passionate about it, but I just tend to agree to disagree when someone tells me that Chase Burns needs this or that. Like, these guys aren't babies, as I've said before. Chase Burns, and I even, like, someone say, and you know, our friend Solly said maybe the only thing left is that they're worried about him in Major League Baseball. It's like, well, it's round, it's got seams on it, and it's probably going to get thrown hard as absolute you know what, and it's going to be hard to hit, is my guess. So we'll see. And I'll say one last thing. I don't want to put this much pressure on Burns, but if he came with just a little bit, maybe if he dated a gymnast that was attractive and he went to a College World Series and he had a lot of hype around him and he pitched in the College World Series, I would say some would say that he's much like he's almost identical to that guy. That's what I would say. But I'll leave it at that.
It just as long as Miley's not giving any medical advice to any of our young starters and ways to treat
all
them.
right. Yes. All right. Roster moves. Let's go to roster moves. What do we think, chat? Roster moves. It's time.
Bullpen.
It is time to move on to the next subject. Bullpen. All right. Woo. We are not going to get ourselves in any litigation here on this show, Nick. Okay. These things are all alleged. And we want to make sure that we understand that everybody is innocent until proven guilty. And things can be said by other people that aren't true. And those might be false allegations. So, just to be clear, bullpen. Moving on.
Scott Barlow. He's pitching well, man. I think this guy's been a little underappreciated, I think. Through a big inning, Reds were down a run, they were tied. They were tied at that point. That was a big inning in this game. I just want to make sure Scott Barlow got some flowers in this game. And obviously, Pagan and Santillan at the end was great as well. But I think that inning by Scott Barlow in the sixth, I think, kind of got overlooked in this game. That was a big inning.
I can't hold it in, man. I can't believe you went there. Of all people, Nick Kirby did it. That was fantastic, by the way. The way you did it was very professional. I liked it. Anyways,
I was
Scott Barlow. You were saying something about Scott Barlow. What were you saying about Scott Barlow?
Yeah, Barlow. You know, he went through and mowed down Dingler, Torkelson, and McKinstry. I mean, you know, big time.
Yes. Isn't it funny? Torkelson.
Dylan Dingler.
Yeah,
that's
Dingler.
A big league name.
Yeah, what a name that is. I thought Barry was coming right after that guy. So, anyways, Torkelson. Isn't it funny how Torkelson was like the world's worst player in Detroit? They're like, this guy, what a terrible decision. And then obviously he's in good graces up there. It's like just funny to see the fandom that exists year after year or year in, year out. I don't know. So, I mean, is Graham Ashcraft a concern? I don't know. I mean, I got to tell you, it feels like we're trending in the wrong direction. I don't know.
I feel like it was a tough inning. He gave up the double that Baez hit wasn't hit hard. He off the end of the bat, I think down the line. And then what was a bunt out, which was weird. And then he actually struck out the best batter he faced in Gary Carpenter, probably the toughest matchup for him. And then, Torres, the single was only hit 82 miles an hour off of him. The double he hit to Riley Green was absolutely torched, but that was he really only gave up one hard hit ball in that outing and ended up, getting charged with 2 runs. So I'm a little concerned, but I'm not in panic mode. That's kind of where I'm at.
All right, that's fair.
I'm more concerned about Rodgers that they didn't use him today.
Well, I was going to say Rodgers.
That was a tailor-made spot for your $6 million lefty with 3 out of 4 left-handed batters do well.
Was your pun intended right there or no?
about
Rogers.
I don't know. I don't even know what I did.
So, no pun. Okay. All right.
Clearly not.
No, you said it was a tailor-made version. I was gonna say I was gonna say to you, don't you think that if they is this like a front office / maybe the management coaching staff, I guess was what we'll say, Tito and Derek Johnson. Do you think maybe there's not a disagreement there, but it's almost like we have so much invested into him that we're not just gonna like try to find a replacement. But they're trying to not use him at all costs. Clearly, it feels that way.
Yeah, he feels like he feels almost like Eugenio Suarez in 2021, where you're like, we can't just get rid of this guy, but we got to kind of give him 2 days off in a row and try to not use him as much as we can. Yeah, I mean, and again, he has had a really good career and he has a good track record. It's just such a weird. It's just so weird. You look up at his name and it says 2.82 ERA, and it's like the most deceiving 2.82 ERA I've ever seen in the history of baseball. But I don't know. I mean, it is a long season. Sam Moll's been getting killed in Louisville, so it's not like you have Moll just ready to come up. And again, I've said many times I don't really consider Suter a lefty because he doesn't have splits and you use him in multi-inning roles. So you need him to get right, though, because he's a pretty big piece to this bullpen that, again, in situations like Ashcraft, I mean, you could have used him in Ashcraft's spot against, again, that's their best lefty in that spot. So he's a pretty big piece, I think, to keep this bullpen together, and I hope he gets right.
Yeah, well, it feels like Suter also kind of has helped fill that void slightly. And I don't know if they would have used Rogers ever in the same type of role that they've used Suter, but, you know, it's like you need to have some left-handed options in the bullpen, and there's not many. So you got to hope that he's going to start throwing the ball relatively well. And in regards to the ERA thing, we've already gone over this before. I mean, he's literally lets everybody score that's on base when he comes in. So, I mean, I don't know the exact number, but it's a lot. It is like it's exceptionally high. So that's why it seems like a gross 2 whatever ERA. And more times than not, also to be very clear, if you're a specialist, which I don't know if I want to put him completely in the specialist role, especially when you have the rule where you have to face 3 batters no matter what. But let's face it, he's supposed to be in there to try to get lefty on lefty matchups out. When you come into a spot where there's inherited runners and you have a lefty on lefty matchup, you know, if you give the one base hit up with guys in scoring position, you fundamentally did not do your job at all, which is what we should judge you on, not whether or not you didn't give up 2 more hits in that inning and allow the guy from first to score. Because if there's 2 outs in the inning, clearly it's a lot easier to get 1 out before your runners that you're responsible for would score. So, you know, that's where kind of stats, or depending on what but what statistical number you want to point to, doesn't always tell the full picture, which is obviously why there's advanced analytics. All right. Roster moves. There were some roster moves, Nick. I know on X you kind of got into the weeds here a little bit, and I say into the weeds, but you're trying to rationalize maybe some of what these moves are, why they've done them, what it looks like. I guess from your perspective, the Reds' moves of late mean what to you?
Well, first off, they finally DFA'd Jacob Hurtubise, a guy we've talked about, a guy we really like and we rooted for. I mean, it felt pretty much long overdue. I mean, he just never got going at AAA after they sent him down. So there's probably a good chance that Hurtubise stays in the organization. I hope he does. I like him. I enjoy rooting for him. I'll never say never on these things, because I feel like there's been a lot of times guys get put on DFA, and I think for sure that guy's going to get picked up, or there's no chance that guy gets picked up, and then somehow there's a team that has a need for him. But yeah, I mean, Hurtubise, it was clearly, I think, time to find a better use for that 40-man roster spot, and take the risk of someone picking him up. Ryan Vilade, interesting player that the Reds picked up. He has a little bit of MLB experience, not a whole lot. The nice thing is he plays just about every position. I think he plays every position other than first base and catcher, which is clearly, I think, a need for the Reds down in the AAA level and into the big leagues. Had a 375 on base percentage at AAA this year in 48 games. So I hope that he's kind of the, and this is going to sound silly to probably some, I hope he's the protection for Garrett Hampson, that the Reds are going to DFA Garrett Hampson. I think they might swap him with Candelario. You put Candelario more in that role. But then if you have another injury and you need someone that can just come up and play multiple positions, he provides you some protection. So he just feels like a lot better use of your 40-man roster spot than Jacob Hertz. It's not going to make a big deal about him. I don't see a whole lot that I see as a ton of upside, but I just feel like he's a better usage of that spot. And then the last guy, Brian Van Bell, the right-handed pitcher, so many similarities with Carson Spires, both undrafted free agents in the 2020 draft. Has kind of grinded his way through, was having a great year down at AAA, provides some depth. And also, I think I'm hoping, is the protection if they decide to call up Chase Burns. Because if you do, let's just say Wade Miley would have gotten absolutely rocked today for whatever, and then maybe Wade Miley gets one more start and gets rocked. Then you say, all right, well let's call up Burns. Well, once you do that, the depth is really crumbling down at AAA starting pitching depth wise with Hunter Green. The latest updates saying it's going to be a long time for him. He provides you with some nice depth and a guy that I think is at least capable of having the potential to come up and at least, fill some starts if you need to. Hopefully you don't, but you have to be prepared. So that's kind of how I see all these moves. I hope these moves are all precursors for Garrett Hampson being DFA'd. See you later, buddy. And Chase Burns getting called up here in the near future.
I think if the Reds continue to win, I think it also forces the hand here a little bit. It does force the hand a little bit for the Reds to have to go and try to do something with the hole that Hunter Green has left. Not in the sense that it's Hunter Green's fault. I'm just saying that when you have that much production, you have a guy that you believe in as much as you do Hunter Green, to have the replacement be kind of what we would call, over the hill pitchers or quadruple A starters, it's a recipe for not much success. In regards to something really quickly before we jump into Elly's extension, which I know we got a super chat earlier by Houston asking about that. Houston Berger asking about that. Jacob Doyle chimed in and says, I don't need an expensive trade, but Vinny P level guy. I'm assuming he's talking about Vinny Pasquantino from the Royals. I just dug him up real fast. Like, listen, he's not a free agent until 2029. He is arbitration eligible, arbitration eligible next season. I just don't know what the appetite is for these other teams to be trading guys like that, unless you're going to give up a haul. And I guess do we think that's what gets us over the proverbial hump? And I get the idea and I get the sentiment. And listen, he has had OPS pluses above 100 every year he's been in the big leagues from the age of 24 to 27. Would he help this team? Yes. But I also think you have to remember that you're going to have some guys coming back, and I hold your breath. I get that you might not like the guys that are coming back. I understand that you might say, I just don't want to see Candelario at all. You've invested so much resources towards Candelario. There is, in my opinion, zero chance they're not going to give him a second lease on an opportunity to help this baseball team in 2025. They're not. This organization doesn't have the financial ability, in my opinion, just to flamboyantly let go of guys that they once obviously super believed in not that long ago. So, and then you get into the whole idea of trading. Well, if you're going to get something in return, you're going to have to trade something that's valuable, and the valuable piece is going to come from the farm system that I got to tell you, Nick, I'm not trying to say I'm down on it. I already feel like from an offensive standpoint, the farm system isn't amazing anyways. So you want to give up
pretty
Sal
average.
Stewart. You want to give
pretty
up
average
Cam
at best
Collier.
right now.
I'm just saying, like, if you got rid of Cam Collier, you got rid of Sal Stewart from an offensive production standpoint in the minor leagues, then you're left with, like, man, there's really not a whole lot left. Just to get a guy that you would say is eligible for a couple more years to stick with us when we might be, and I'm not trying to be negative here. I'm just saying we might not be a great team anyways. It's a tough spot the Reds find themselves in. We've said this time and time and time again. We certainly aren't sellers at this point, but I also don't know, like, if we're all-in buyers either, because it feels like we're just stuck in the middle. Someone might ask, well, how the hell do you get out of the middle? Nick, I have to tell you, like, you've spent a ton of resources in draft capital on starting pitching. So that's the route that you're going to have to go, in my opinion, in order to get, I guess, what I would consider a high-level bat. But Candelario is supposed to be that fix, and we missed. I hate to say that, but that's how I look at it. Like, we had our one chance to go out and get a production bat, and we swung and missed. And he might come back and fill the role anyways. So there's your hope. And I know some people are going to be like, Candelario is the worst. Trace is making up stuff. I was the guy that went viral for yelling about Candelario and his piss poor at bats. Trust me, I've watched enough of him, Nick. But I also, like, hesitantly say I have the same thing you said about McLean and thinking to yourself, there's no way that he's this bad. I don't know how good he is, but he's not this bad. Candelario is in the same boat. He's not this damn bad. Now, some are saying, well, yeah, he is. I mean, if you watch him long enough, maybe you feel that way. But you get my point, Nick. I hope people don't just give up on Candelario.
Yeah, you have to be careful at the deadline. I mean, I get people are impatient; they want to win now. But I mean, we just remember where this team was a month and a half ago, where we're looking at the depth of this organization. There's no one to fill out a lineup that's competitive, and you trade from that. It just is going to make it even harder to do that again in the future. So I don't know. I mean, there's players that could make sense if they become available. I see everyone is on Jarren Duran, which I think every other team in baseball is probably also going to be on Jarren Duran. I mean, he's a guy that has multiple years left. Yeah, sure. I mean, you could make an argument that would fit. I mean, it would have to be a player with multiple years of control. It would be malpractice to try to trade with a 20% at best chance of making the playoffs for players that are rentals, unless you're giving up, lottery tickets like the Reds have in the past when they added Sam Moll to try to help them, that kind of stuff. But I don't know. You have to be careful. I'm going to be just as invested in this organization in 5 years as I am right now. I get some might not, but a team like the Brewers, that's the best model. They don't go all in at the trade deadline. They never do. And they continue to stockpile talent, and that's how they win. That's the only way this organization will ever do anything that is worth more than a 1-year cute run.
All right, speaking of stockpiling talent, there was comments made by Nick Kroll about the extension of Elly De La Cruz. Those comments, I don't know if you have the quote directly in front of you, Nick, but paraphrasing, those comments were, we met with his team, we had those discussions, obviously nothing got done. At this moment, we have not basically gone back to the drawing board and haven't communicated about an extension.
I have the quote if you want it.
Go ahead, please.
The quote here, hopefully there is something there, but as of right now, there are no talks that are currently happening. We have had those conversations, and that's not something that we've been able to match up on.
This is, Nick, the most obvious thing in the world to me. I had said 2 years ago on this show that the Reds' only and best chance, in my opinion, to be able to extend Elly De La Cruz was to do it 2 years ago. I know that at the time, I remember vividly, even other media members in this town skulking or making fun of the idea that you have to worry or contend or even entertain the idea of extending a guy that's not eligible for free agency, I think, until 2029. But the reality is this guy is going to garner so much money that in order for you to offset the discrepancy that you would have with basically major market baseball teams is to do what? Is to pay him really handsomely before he's ever even eligible for not just arbitration, but free agency. You got to start to kill off the years. You got to be able to say, you know what, instead of you only making up numbers here, $3 million, okay, in 2027, you're going to be making $25 million. And over the 5-year run, that would add up to an extra, name the number, $150 to $200 million. And the additional money that we're going to give you, to be clear, would add up to a lifetime earnings up until the age of 35 or whatever number you want to use. That would get you to about the same number that you would get in the free market. Now, the only argument, Nick, that I would make that you could have here with this Elly extension, if you're on Elly's side, is that if they believe in Major League Baseball, in the popularity of it, perhaps will only increase and increase and increase, and the salaries for these players is only going to increase and increase and increase, then the Reds might have never had a chance. But I would also say on the flip side, if you're the Cincinnati Reds, you could say, well, let's also understand that there's a chance at the next CBA that there's going to be some things that are going to change. You might be in your best interest to try to push this forward. Nick, to me, at this point now, we can all just move on and say we're going to love Elly while he's here. This ship has sailed. Let's just focus on basically other things because I don't want to say it's a waste of time, but it seems like we're sitting here wishing upon a shooting star that's never going to come.
Yeah, I've kind of accepted it almost in my mind, and I keep in the back of my head that you have a Hail Mary that the CBA that expires at the end of next season, at the end of 2026 in December, I think 1st to be exact, that somehow that drastically increases your chance of being able to retain him after that. I think the only thing that really would piss me off about this whole situation is if I found out the Reds never attempted before he got to this point. I think they should have. And I said this at the time. I remember the second or third show you asked me,
I know exactly
which players would you extend on the Reds? And I was like, yeah, I mean, like Hunter Green would make sense. And I was like, but honestly, Elly De La Cruz is number one on the list. He was, just barely hadn't played in AAA yet. I think he finished in AA.
I know people might not believe this, but I do know for a fact that Nick said that he would extend Elly De La Cruz before he ever even got into the big leagues, would be the biggest mistake this organization ever made, was if they didn't try before he got to the big leagues, because that's when you should have. It was so obvious. Like, it was so obvious that he's the kind of player you take that shot on, because there was a possibility that you could have got him back then for, legitimately 75% off of the cost now, maybe more. Right. And there's people in the chat that are bringing up Ronald Acuna and the idea that there's no player that's ever going to do that again because he's so vastly underpaid now based off of what he signed for. But again, I think it's just a personal-to-person basis. Like, Ronald Acuna, I don't think is complaining. He's making millions upon millions of dollars. And yeah, he might be underpaid, but he's also an accident away a couple years ago. I'm not saying that that's something that you should but I got to tell you, Nick, guaranteed money is guaranteed money, man. It's just hard for me to say you would turn down a deal because you'd rather wait an extra, what is it going to be, another 4 years? You're going to wait another 4 years. And at the time when we were talking about extending him, it would have been another 6 years. You're going to wait another 6 years to make an extra what? Maybe $50 million, $100 million on top of, and I know that's a lot of money. People are like, oh, it's only $50 to $100 million. I'm saying at the risk of never even getting paid at all. I mean, I know that the likelihood was relatively high, Nick, but it wasn't like, it just seems, I guess maybe I'm not risk adverse, but I'm pretty risk adverse. I've taken some risks in my life. I feel like they had a chance and they missed it, simply put.
I think the thing that I was maybe the most naive on back maybe as early as last year that I've started to hear more and more about is the fact that Elly De La Cruz can make so much more money in other markets and with endorsement deals and things like that.
Right.
And so you also have that competing against you as well.
100%.
And as much as that sucks, it's just brutal reality for being a Reds fan. But the more and more I've heard and kind of done a little digging and stuff, there's just it sounds like he wants that almost. And look, I'm not going to blame him at all for that. Like, kid gives 110% every game to the Reds. I wish he would just stay here forever. But that's a reality of. But I will say, like, there's no dollar amount that I'm opposed to as a guy that's pretty much, as risk averse probably as any Reds fan out there. There's no dollar amount that I think wouldn't be worth trying with Elly De La Cruz and just figuring out the rest of it around him. I mean, the Brewers, which I talk about a lot, it's a little different because it's not going to be nearly as much. They did still sign Christian Yelich to a massive deal, and they had 20-something million on him every year. So I think that he's worth it. But it is kind of a brutal reality.
Yeah, listen, I think it's a combination of a couple things. I think that you could argue the financials of it make sense. Definitely at this point, makes sense to wait until free agency. I think that his agent probably isn't one that wants him to sign regardless. And I also think on top of that Elly, and I don't mean this disrespectfully in a way for us, I just think Elly would like to play in a big city. I think that Elly would prefer to go to a name brand, if you'd like to call it that. And the truth of the matter is I think he's already kind of showcased that by the way that he kind of interacts with the post gamers at some of these bigger stadiums. He's already mentioned that LA is like his city. He loves LA. I get it. I guess to a certain extent, I understand it. And I think he'll give us everything he's got until the day that he leaves. But as far as the whole idea that Elly's going to be here, extend him, etc., it's a waste of time. I know we've spent a segment on it, but I think we can all rest assured that ship has sailed. Now the question then becomes is what do you do while he's here? And, what's funny, Nick, I know this sounds crazy to say, but I can't. This is a Major League Baseball problem to me. I'm not going to go down this warpath tonight, but it really pisses me off, and I don't really want to go down the weeds of what I think that the league should be doing. The truth of the matter is it's a funnel system, 100% a funnel system at many small markets for what they ultimately will then go to major market teams. And if you don't think that there's a fundamental problem within the landscape of professional sports, then obviously we'll have to agree to disagree. I think your league is best when you have basically every team with the same opportunity to be able to compete on the same scale. If you make bad decisions, you get bad problems, a la the Cleveland Browns. I'm not saying a salary cap fixes any kind of, what's the word everyone likes to use? Parity. I'm not saying that a salary cap or any kind of competitive balance rules fixes parity. But what I would say is at least we could have a reasonable debate on whether or not you should keep certain guys or not based off of their performance versus it just being you have zero chance because there's an endless market out there for other Major League Baseball teams to spend. Some have suggested, Nick, that there should be a salary floor. I got to tell you, I don't understand that logic either, folks. Like, okay, so you're going to make people spend a certain amount of money. Well, that doesn't fix the problem because guess what? The other team's just going to start spending a little bit more.
And on dumb players 1-year deals. Like you're gonna have all these players signed like to a team that's rebuilding that are like I don't know what
right.
I don't want to say Jamer Candelario because when he was signed he was actually an attractive player, but you're gonna have a bunch of like if Jeimer Candelario was a free agent coming into this year,
Right.
players signed.
Yeah, they're not going to take long-term risks with the floor. What they're going to do instead is just barely hit the minimum of the floor with some random free agent player, and they're going to get paid more. So, yeah, I this show right now on a Sunday night after the Reds win 2 of 3 against the Detroit Tigers is not the appropriate time, in my opinion, to talk about Major League Baseball and the issues that exist within it. But I think that it goes back, and there's a little bit of a tie-in with what Elly is going through right now with the Reds. I'll leave it at that. So I get someone's going to say the ownership group this, the ownership group that. I get it. I understand. I'm not defending them, but they're left without an option. And I would like at some point Major League Baseball would give these teams an option. If the Pittsburgh Pirates want to keep Paul Skeens, they should 100% be able to keep him without question. If the Reds were to say, hey, this is our franchise player, that there's no doubt that the Reds should be able to give Elly enough money to match whatever it is that he thinks he's available or able to make on the free market. Now, to be clear, Elly might just want to go play somewhere else, and that's his choice. That's his ability, and he's obviously has that option when that time comes. So,
well, let me ask you this: I don't care about other sports. I certainly don't care about other sports and contracts. I don't spend any time investing on that.
Yeah.
But don't some other sports have a lot of incentives into players staying into the contract that they came up with? I think, doesn't the NBA have some sort of the matching? I think the NHL has that as well, where baseball doesn't have any of that. That is also another thing that should maybe be an option on the CBA, is something that incentivizes players like Elly De La Cruz or whoever to want to sign with the team that they came up with, a team that drafted them, because it is better for the sport.
100%. Now, you're going to get into a whole nother debate and topic of conversation because of max contracts in the NBA, and if you were drafted by a team, then your max contract with them could be significantly more because they have the ability to pay you more than another team does because they actually were the ones that found you, which would go into Elly. Like, in a perfect world, Elly should be able to make more money with us than any other team in Major League Baseball in a perfect world because they found him. They were the ones that drafted him, and they didn't draft him per se, but you get my point. They were the ones that acquired him. They should have the first right of refusal. That's what seems fair. But what's funny is you have, not a conspiracy theory, but maybe you could call it that the Dallas Mavericks decided to trade Luka because they didn't want to pay him the amount of money that they were going to have to pay him based off what a max contract would be for him versus maybe a different kind of guy. So it's like, so maybe it doesn't fix the problem. Smart people always find loopholes. I guess, I don't know. We'll save this for when the CBA hits. How about that? Seems like a good time to talk about it.
We'll have plenty of time to
I think we
discuss
will.
them, because I have a feeling that is going to drag on for a very long time after the expiration date.
Do you think, I not really quickly, we'll move on to Reds and MiLB. Do you think it's going to go over
Yes, I'll take the over.
Over 75% of the season?
Oh, I don't know about that. I mean, I would set the over-under at maybe 30% of the season, maybe 35%. That's where I think maybe the over-under line should be right now, and I would probably take over.
It feels like it's going to be like a COVID situation. Like they're gonna run these teams out there for like 50. They're going to call it the race to whatever. Like it's going to be something stupid. Like they're going to play 60 games, Nick. They're going to play 60 games at most, and they're gonna come up with some World Series, and it's going to be funny because then people are going to say it's a fake World Series, just like the bubble was for the NBA. And I can't wait.
I'll take
it's going to be great.
I'll take it.
Oh yeah, trust me, I'll take it. I mean, if it means the Reds win a World Series in the shortened season, by all means, whichever way possible, I'll take it. All right. Any other supers? We got a couple supers here, and then we're going to jump into Reds and MiLB and do the who, what, when, where, and why. Roth said, I like sports and I don't care who knows. Lonely Island. If you know, you know. I don't know. I have a question. I have a new red shirt. The Reds haven't lost the last 2 days when I've worn it. So you're telling me you've worn this shirt you've worn it 2 days in a row, you're saying. Do I wash it tomorrow on the off day? Who's superstitious? You obviously said don't you dare.
Don't you think about it. I'm not superstitious, but don't do it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if it's in your mind, here's what I would say. If it's in your mind already that you're thinking about not doing it, then I wouldn't do it, you know? It seems like that's a thing. In fact, Nick, I don't know if you know, I'm not superstitious, but there are times in your life when something happens over and over and over and over again, you think, man, this shouldn't affect, like, this shirt or this hoodie that I'm wearing right now should not affect the outcome of the game. I have thrown away, I didn't burn them, I didn't do anything like that. I have thrown away 2 hoodies in my life, Nick. One was the hoodie that I wore, and I didn't think about it. I didn't think about it until after. So, you know, everyone's going to say it was my fault. I guess it could be my fault. I wore it to the NLDS every game for 3 straight games to Great American Ballpark, and we all know what happened. Not going to go back and relive those memories. I threw that in the trash. Probably had no bearing, no effect, no nothing on the game. I get it. But I just was like, you know what? I wore this every day like an idiot. It's going in the trash. And I did the same thing with the Georgia Bulldog pullover when they inevitably, every time I put that hoodie on, it seemed like they lost a big game. So, yeah, I guess I'm superstitious is what I'm getting at. Why else would you throw perfectly fine hoodies away? But I did. Flat Rock 79 says, if this keeps up, I'm going to have to cancel my Roku. What? I don't know what that means. Does that mean Flat Rock's not the FanDuel guy, right? Like, I got to cancel my FanDuel subscription. I can't
it might have been a bid. It had to be a bid on that, yeah.
Okay, yeah, something like that.
That makes more sense.
That's it. That is what it is.
Yeah,
I bet he's saying that he's going to have to cancel Roku to then go back and get the FanDuel.
Well, it would have been better if they would have lost today for that, though. They won, so I don't. That's what kind of threw.
No. I'm saying I think what he's trying to say. This is I'm saying he's saying she's saying type thing right now. Listen.
Okay.
He has the FanDuel Sports Network.
Okay.
He might have canceled that, so he got Roku. He's got Roku now. But now he's thinking, well, the Reds are winning, so I got to cancel my Roku now and then go back to the FanDuel network.
Oh,
that's what I'm saying.
The whole psychology.
It's a switcheroo thing. It's a switcheroo thing.
All right.
Rolf says Elly is here 2 years max. If the Reds are smart, pains me to say that so much. The problem is, I don't think any of us here trust the Reds front office to not screw this up. But whether he stays or goes, the Reds won tonight. It's true. They did win tonight. And you know what? Listen, the comments were made about Elly. We wanted to bring it up and discuss it on this show. The truth of the matter is it's really not shocking news. It shouldn't be that upsetting to anybody. We move on. Ho-hum. You took 2 or 3 from the Tigers. You broke the curse that you felt like was never going to get broken. You won a game you had no business winning. I mean, did you think to yourself when you woke up this morning on Father's Day weekend that Wade Miley was going to go out there and beat the Detroit Tigers, playing for a franchise that was incapable of winning a series after they dropped the first game in what was basically a year and a month? No. I didn't have that on my bingo card, but neither did I have JJ Spawn winning the U.S. Open. So you know what? Anything is possible. Dunny17. Shout out Kevin Durant. Reds are hot, and Wynns is tearing it up. I don't know if Wynns is tearing it up. Nah. Whoops. Let's see. Maybe he is. Maybe he went 3 for 4 today. I don't know. I do know he was 1 for 8 at one time with a homer. But he said fantastic. I'm going to have to look that up now. Is Wynns hot? Is he hot? Is he hot? Let's see. Let's check in on him. All right. Yeah. Don't know if we're going to say he's hot. 1 for 8. And also, unfortunately, you know, I don't see any more game logs. So he hasn't played the last 2 games. So
we played today.
Well, then I guess. That's what it is. Baseball Reference is
he homered today.
He homered again.
Hey,
listen, Baseball Reference is
Baseball Reference is an update. You got to go to the MLB.com page for the play.
Why can't Baseball Reference update?
He's homered in back-to-back games.
Okay, well, turns out he's good.
Well, he didn't play. He didn't play on Saturday. He
only homers. I mean, listen, the guy just doesn't play. He's like, oh, you know what? Oh yeah, in Oakland now. If I was his agent If I was Austin Wynns' agent, I would be like, what in the hell does my man have to do to earn some respect? You guys ship him all over here. You ship him over there. He's played for 9 different teams. Yeah, he's 47 years old. He might have not played very well in the first 12 years he was in the big leagues, but every other game he's hitting a home run, and then he sits for 2 months for the Reds. He literally went a month without seeing a baseball thrown his way, and then he walks into Oakland, and there he goes. Home run here, home run there, and by God, I am rooting for Austin Wynns. I am a fan of Austin Wynns.
2 for 12, 2 bombs. I mean, that man's efficient. Efficient.
That's all that matters. Listen, I think that there was a Spencer Steer fan in my comments saying, he's 1 for 8, Trace. He's 1 for 8. Let's not act like he's... I said, hey, bud, I don't mean to be mean, but 1 for 8 with a home run is I don't know if you know, but that's more production than our man Spencer Steer has been providing. So yeah.
Do you know they have the same amount of home runs this year?
Well, I'm not going to try to be. Listen, it's a positive show, okay? Spencer Steer, he's going to get back on track. Everything's going to go well. I'm not trying to do that. It's not crazy.
I'm sorry,
it's not that crazy, Nick. It's not that crazy. Austin Wynns he hits home runs. You watch him play baseball, he's hitting the ball hard. I don't know what to tell you. Spencer Steer he had 1 arm for the first 3 months of the year. I'm trying to give him a break here, okay? I'm being nice. That's all I got. I'm done. No more bits. Not that it wasn't even a bit. I mean, Austin Wynns is... I mean, I don't know. Austin Wynns' agent. I mean, seriously. Golly.
2 starts in a weekend, though. I mean, he's been starting some games out there.
You know what's funny is could you imagine you know how you always have those parents that are like, if my kid would just get a chance to play, he'd be able to do pretty good, you know? He's sitting behind these pet favorites, the coach is picking favorites. It's all political. It's all political. I've heard that. I've heard that plenty in my life. And I got to tell you, more times than not, I always shrug it off like, oh yeah, I mean, I guess so. Yeah, if your son was so good, I'm sure the coach decides not to play him because he's so good. I got to tell you, that crowd, that conspiracy theory crowd, that bunch, they're gaining some credibility on me. I'm starting to think I might listen to those folks a little more often because I'm going to say, you know what? This reminds me of a guy. You might have never heard of him, but he played 25 years ago. His name was Austin Wynns. And I tell you, that SOB decided to hit a home run every other game he played in. And then you know what they did? They sat him. And they didn't just sit him. They sat him for a month. And then they shipped him out for cash considerations. They didn't even know how much money they were getting back. They're just like, hey, do you want a guy that hits home runs when he plays? Sure. How much do you want for him? I don't know. We don't give a damn. He doesn't play for us anyway. Go ahead and send him on his way. Then, sure enough, guess what happens? He hits home runs for that new team. Why didn't the first team want him? Well, they had a guy that was slugging 400, and he was striking out 25% of the time playing first base. That's why they didn't want him. Anyways.
Fangraphs has Austin Wynns listed as the starting catcher for the A's. Getting a shot.
You know,
I hope he gets a lot of at bats. I really do, because I want this to be determined.
Yeah,
I want this to be determined. If you're right, I will bow down before you. If you're right, and this guy gets 300 at bats this year, I'm praying that he gets a ton of at bats.
Well, you better hope he doesn't, because if he does, you better get on Amazon or wherever else for no free ads, but you better get some knee pads, Nick, because you're gonna be bowing. Okay, you're gonna be bowing. This guy has figured it out late in his career. He has had an epiphany. Look it up. He's had an epiphany. He's figured out how to hit baseballs hard, and he's continued to do it. He might have only done it twice, but you know what? I don't give a damn. The guy might hit 50 home runs this year, and he might hit, what would it be, like 200, $195. Pretty good.
I feel like you're going to be on the Disney Plus Austin Wynns movie. You're going to be one of the announcers running through.
I was also on. I was already on. What was that show called? A Money Game, I think it's called. Yeah, you don't know about this. You don't know about this?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, on Amazon, there's a thing called The Money Game. I'm pretty sure of it. And it's how I got on there, I don't know, but I was talking about NIL on Off the Bench, I do believe. And
put that up?
somehow, yeah, listen, somehow they sandwich me in between the Kelsey brothers, Charles Barkley, Rich Eisen, and someone else. It was like, if you're watching that, you got to be thinking to yourself, who's this random ass dude sandwiched between all of these guys? No, that's yours truly, right here.
Because I put Livy Dunn on the thumbnail.
That's exactly what it was. Some perverted bastard that was making the money's game in the middle of the night seen your thumbnail and was like, what's this? Clicked on it, and they were like, we're clipping that up and we're putting it in the show.
Be a lesson, interns. Be a lesson.
Yeah. Anyways. All right, folks. How we got there in this show, I don't know. But that's why you tune in on Sunday nights, because we go 3 hours. We talk about everything from the baseball game to Livy Dunn, now as mentioned, twice in one show. Reds MiLB. Off to Louisville.
All right. Reds of MiLB. We'll start off with AAA with the Louisville Bats. They fall 3-0 to Iowa. Bats now 29-40. Jammer Candelario on base twice, 1 for 3, a double and a walk. Resigns 0 for 4. Blake Dunn 1 for 4. Perfect inning from Zach Maxwell. Good to see. He had been scuffling. And Hunter Parks threw a scoreless inning as well. AA Chattanooga, they lose 14-8 to Biloxi. Now, I was working hard to find confirmation on this, but I haven't found confirmation yet. I believe the Lookouts' final week of the first half is this upcoming week. They play a 7-game series against the worst team, Rocket City. They have a half-game lead for a playoff spot. So I think if they finish ahead this week, they are in the playoffs. We'll work on confirmation for that. Evan Arroyo had a good day, 2 for 5 with a double. Sal Stewart 0 for 4. Hector Rodriguez 1 for 4. Austin Hendrick 1 for 4 with a walk. Good day for Ruben Ibarra, homered twice for the Lookouts. Dayton Dragons, they won 4-1 over Lake County. The Dragons have won 2 of 3, now 20-43 on the season. Cam Collier 1 for 5 with a double. Leo Balcazar 2 for 3. Carlos Jorge 1 for 4. And last but not least, the Daytona Tortugas, they fall 7-5 to St. Lucie. Tortugas now 27-36 on the season. Alfredo Duno 2 for 5. Sammy Stafora 1 for 4 with a triple. And Kyle Henley stole a base. He's now 31 for 33 in stolen base attempts this season.
All right, and quickly moving on to who, what, when, where, and why. Reds do play baseball again, just not tomorrow.
Yeah, going to take on the Minnesota Twins. I don't like this, Trace, at all. The Twins come in 36-35. They've lost 4 straight and 8 of 10. I'd rather play a hot team if I've learned anything this year. Twins kind of just a hovering team, probably very similar to the Reds. Reds are going to get to see some old friends, Ty France and Harrison Bader is having a great year for the Twins. Overall, their offense has been not as good as the Reds. This will be a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday series. Tuesday and Wednesday at 7:10. Thursday at 12:40. It'll be Andrew Abbott against David Festa on Tuesday. Nick Lodolo against Bailey Ober on Wednesday. And Nick Martinez against Chris Paddock on Thursday. This will be Andrew Abbott's first start since he threw 110 pitches, his first career complete games. I'm interested to see how he's able to pitch in his first start back from his longest, most taxing probably outing of his career.
I hope it goes well. That way we don't have to concern ourselves over whether or not he shouldn't have thrown those last 20 pitches. That's what I'm hopeful for. Because I
would pitch as well because I want to see the Reds win.
Yes. Well, I mean, that goes without saying, but I really don't want to even go down this path of debate whether or not the last start affected this start, because, I mean, it could have reasonably done so, but I just hope we just avoid that altogether because he throws the ball well, Reds find a way to win, and we move on. All right. Make sure I haven't missed anything. I know. Nope. Haven't missed anything. So, hour and 35 minutes as we are out on this show. poor Nick has to edit that. Don't know how he does it, but I do want you to know that if you have not liked the stream already, please do so. Also, if you've not downloaded the podcast or listened to the podcast in the mornings, please do so as well. And in the meantime, there is one final thing we do on this show. Now, I got to tell you, I've said before, and I said it again, that I'm probably going to get the shore power for the camera. That is the dunk camera. And I have said that time and time again, and yet I have not done that. The good news is that today, when we started the show, it was at a full battery. And what I have found out now is that if you run a show for an hour and 25 minutes, that battery does eventually just run out of juice at an hour and 25 minutes. So we'll keep that in mind as well. But we still have one camera, so we're going to give it our shot. But before we do that, we got people in the chat that I've seen all night long. You know, it's a work night. It's a work night, and they're thinking to themselves, oh, no, Trace, you know, you still need to do one thing. What is that one thing? I'll tell you what. If there is a way that Reds Fest comes back, and there's a chance that the lineup card is sitting right there in the middle of the aisles again, and we're shuffling through them, and I can find myself to get my hands on the Sunday in Detroit. Boy, oh boy, would I love that. June 15th, Father's Day weekend. We ran out a senior citizen. We did. And we found a way to win. And we didn't just win. We won for the first time in over a year, a series that we lost the first game. And that is something to be proud about. And you know what? This chat all night long said, ignite the night. What is it? What are they saying? What are they? What? No free ads. Ignite the night, Trace. Ignite the night, Trace. Yeah, I get it. No free ads. Yeah, is that what you're talking about? Yeah. Focus, camera. Focus. It's just not going to focus. Sorry. Nope. It's just not going to focus. It says ignite the night. I get it. So here we go. We're going to ignite the night. But I just want you to know that me and myself and Nick, me and myself, that makes a lot of sense. Me and Nick very much appreciate you guys and everyone else. The guys over the weekend are great. And I just want to say, there's nothing better in this city than when the Reds win. There's nothing better. Can we please, for the love of God, just get a baseball team that can possibly rally the city one time in October? And if that happens this year, I will tell you right now, this collective community will be down at Reds Fest, and we will be scouring to put that lineup card next to the Sunday in Oakland. And that'll cap the collection off. So for myself and Nick, we won't see you again, obviously, until Tuesday. But much love. I'm going to ignite the night, and we're going to get out of here. Never tasted better. Never tasted better. All right, let's do it.